Hey everybody, and welcome to the second lockdown live stream, which is what I'm calling these live streams now that so many of us are in lockdown or self-quarantining or social distancing or however you want to refer to it. A lot of us are at home, so here we are with another live stream. Okay, so if you are watching the archive, thank you for doing so. If you're watching live, thank you even more. We're gonna start the stream. Oh, there I am. One second, guys. You'd think I've done this enough to not have stuff like that happen, but every day is a new day. So so we're gonna start. All of these live streams are pretty informal. As you can see, we are just here in my little music studio living room situation. And I love just talking to you guys. I always take your questions throughout the stream because you guys have so many great questions for me always. Of course, because I am home, there is going to be potentially some neighbor noise, especially now so many people are home, so it's not quite as quiet here, but I'm doing the best I can, and I think especially once the music gets going, you shouldn't be able to hear too much else. So thank you for joining me today. If you caught last week's stream, thank you for being there for the first official lockdown live stream, though I've been, of course, doing live streams on the channel for a while, but these are sort of more themed, but I would say they're in the same vein as all the live streams I've done before, a combination of Q&A, some playing. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different that I'm super excited about, so we will get into that soon, once I make sure we're all set up over here. All right, awesome. So again, if you're watching the archive, you can skip ahead if you would like to go straight to the music portion, which will be about 30 minutes into the stream, because I start kind of casually with scales and warm-ups and just talking to you guys, and then get into a little bit more playing as the stream continues. So I'm going to go back to my little cello spot. Then I will be able to monitor the chat from that computer that just started talking, and we should be good to go. Okay. Oops, sorry. Hope that wasn't too loud. All right, so I've got another computer here that is slow. I realized after the fact that it may not, I may not see every single message in the chat sometimes. So if I ever miss you and don't refer to your comment, I super apologize. Sometimes they don't all show up for me, but sometimes I'll go back and watch the live stream and realize a comment that I missed. So, but hopefully I will catch all of you guys. Okay, so where to begin? First of all, I hope you're all just doing great, hanging in there. I know this is a crazy time. We gotta all start settling in. We don't know how long this is gonna last, but it's my perspective that it should only get easier. You know, the beginning's gotta be the hardest because there's so many adjustments to be made and so much shock. But now, hopefully, we're all sort of settling into our new reality, finding ways to keep ourselves busy at home, like watching this live stream, for example. Or any other kind of activities, hobbies. You know, hopefully we can all use this time to benefit us as much as possible. You know, all we can do is look for silver linings at times like this. So, hey, now I'm doing weekly live streams. So I did decide after last week, so many people were excited about it, that I'm going to try to do these every week, same day and same time. So of course, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It'll always notify you when I go live. But I'm going to try to be consistent with keeping this time and day for the streams too, just to make it easier for everybody to tune in. So how are you guys all doing? I know there's a little bit of a delay between the stream and the chat, but please feel free to talk to me and make yourself comfortable, talk to each other, have a good time. Like, we need that community sense more than ever right now, so don't be shy. Okay, we already got some great questions. This is why I love you guys. So, first question, how do I suggest working on intonation? So, and intonation's a huge topic, especially if you're dealing with early and Baroque music, which is, of course, what I mostly play and what I'm going to be playing on the stream. And I don't want to have a huge major discussion on the different types of tuning systems, but I will say, point blank for intonation, one of the most helpful things as a string player is using a drone. So playing scales with a drone, things like that, so that your ear is always centered on a pitch and you can really focus on training that left hand to get it super in tune. I use this Korg box. I show it on almost all of my streams, but I love it. It is a metronome, but it also is a tuner that plays different drones, so And then you can even calibrate the A to whatever you want. So right now my A is at 415 because I'm going to be playing on my Baroque cello, but I can slide it up to 440 or even anywhere in between. So I use this for drone practice. You can also, like, I had students buy drone recordings, like, on the iTunes store. There's a lot of ways you can get a drone. But this is in my Amazon shop. The link to my Amazon shop is in the description of the video, which has just, like, my favorite rosin, my favorite modern steel strings. Anything that's available on Amazon that I use is in my Amazon shop, including this. So I use this for tuning for drones. Using this for drones. And I would do scales, things like that. Once you start working in tempered tuning, which is different than equal temperament, so basically for those who don't know, our modern tuning system is sort of set to the way the piano is tuned, with every half step being the exact same distance apart, which is measured in cents, I guess is what it is. I don't know why this is escaping me right now. I'm mixing it up with hertz, too much audio language in my mind. But yeah, so we now tune with all of our half steps the exact same size. So if you go to a piano and play every half step, they will be tuned so that every half step is the same distance. But that actually wasn't how the tuning worked hundreds of years ago. And there are many names for all different types of tuning. We hear of mean tone, quarter comma mean tone, velati. There's all these different temperaments that are based more on the fifths and the thirds. So those, and a lot of the way that I play on my Baroque cello is a tuning that is slightly different than equal temperament. So if you're trying to work on intonation for tempered tuning, that's a different animal. The best way I learned to play in temperaments is playing continuo along with a harpsichord that is tuned in a proper temperament. But there are apps that have temperaments plugged into them. I use an app, it's pretty dated now, I wish they would update it, but it's called ClearTune, and they have choices for tons of temperaments you can use, and you can play drones off of ClearTune and actually pick drones within a temperament. So that can be really useful if you are looking to learn about doing temperaments. Basically for intonation, drone is the way to go. Okay, sorry, that was a little bit of a jumbled answer to that question. So, how can a person learn to read a facsimile of Baroque music? Are there books that can train a person to do this? So there are not exactly books on how to read a facsimile, and I will show everybody a couple examples of what a facsimile is. It's basically a handwritten manuscript that comes from usually the 17th and the 18th centuries. And not only takes a little getting used to reading something that's handwritten, but there are actually some conventions that are even different on the facsimiles than what we do now in modern printing. So let me show you. I'm going to give you a couple examples, and then I'm going to come up to the camera there and show you guys. Where is my Bach? All right, hopefully this won't be too disturbing. I'm just going to move this microphone. All right. I do not know where my Bach is, which is what I really want to show you guys. But that's okay. So this is a performer's facsimile of a Barriere sonata, so you can just see that it's handwritten. But it's still fairly legible. It's still pretty clear. Not every manuscript or facsimile you encounter is going to be legible. Here's an example of a 17th century manuscript. This is a lot more difficult. They did not even beam together 8th notes and 16th notes in the earlier part of the 17th century. So this is very difficult to read. I would not even sight read off of something like this. But these, what's sometimes called performers' facsimiles, are very legible. They just take a little getting used to. The best thing you can do is just practice reading off of parts like this. And luckily, imslp.org is a really great resource for sheet music, and there's tons of facsimile parts available on IMSLP. Another thing, hold on. Little clumsy here with the moving back and forth. Another thing to consider when reading facsimiles is that they did not align everything perfectly vertically the way we look at music now in modern print. If there's, two parts or it's a score, everything is always aligned. Every beat lines up for each part. They did not do that back in the 18th century. In fact, They oftentimes or sometimes did not even print scores. They would just print separate parts. And so anyway, the idea of aligning dozens and dozens of parts by each beat was not a thing back then. So sometimes, like if you're sight reading on a duet or something with a continuo part right below, the beats will not be aligned in the two parts. So you have to be mindful of that. They also had some slight discrepancies with sharps and flats. Like for example, they did not use a natural sign. If a note was an F sharp and they wanted to turn it to an F natural, they would put a flat, just saying to flatten the sharp, rather than putting it as a natural. So really all you need to do to get used to reading facsimiles is know a couple of those rules or conventions that vary from modern printing, and then just get practice reading it. And looking at something that's handwritten instead of computer printed, it just takes practice like anything else. Okay. Oh, Alyssa's here. Hi, everybody. Say hi to my friend Alyssa. Okay, how can you get a Baroque cello? So people ask me all the time, and what I will say, even my cello that I'll be playing on today, and I do talk about this in every live stream, so I apologize to those who have heard this so many times, but it's worth going over for anybody who's new. So I am playing, oh, and I didn't even put my modern cello in the shot today. I forgot. My guitars are in this corner instead of my modern cello. But so I am playing on my Baroque cello, which is not officially built in the Baroque period. This was built in about the 1950s and then converted over to a semi-Baroque setup. So even I am not playing on a truly Baroque cello, but there are a couple really important things that you can either have done to a modern cello or just do yourself to a modern cello that will give you something that's very close to a Baroque instrument. So the biggest thing is the gut strings, which of course I'll be playing on today, and you'll be hearing. You can put gut strings on a modern cello. So the combination of gut strings and then no end pin, which again, I know you guys can't see it while I'm playing, but I'm just cradling the instrument in my legs. You can take a modern cello and put gut strings on. Either don't take the end pin out, like just leave it in the instrument, or you can take it out entirely if you want to make your cello a little bit lighter. But don't use the end pin, put gut strings on, and then get yourself a Baroque bow, and you are really 70% of the way there. So the strings, the bow, and the lack of end pin are the biggest factors with a Baroque instrument, and many people even start their professional careers or they start studying Baroque music heavily just by that setup alone. So don't feel that you have to get a Baroque instrument to really start exploring this. My bow is made by Christopher English. It's African blackwood. You can see that Baroque bows, for those who don't know, I'm just trying to hold it in a way we can see. It has a lighter tip that's much more pointy, and the curve of the stick goes away from the hair rather than towards the hair on a modern bow. Basically, this bow has a much lighter tip, and it gives us lighter articulations and lighter up bows, which was a really important part of the musical style of that period. So when we play with a heavy modern bow, and we're trying to make all our up bows equal to our down bows like we're taught in modern technique, that's actually going against the musicality of the Baroque period. So it's great to be using equipment or similar equipment to what these composers were really working with so that we can get closer to the sound they were going for. And Baroque bows, as you'll notice, are of course held up a little higher on the frog. But so yeah, I recommend if you have a spare modern cello, that's great. If you have the flexibility to be able to put gut strings on your modern instrument, that's a really good start. I use Damien's gut strings. I've used him since 2007. Is that right? Yeah, 2007, maybe 2008. But he's wonderful. His strings are the best that I've ever tried. And I always link to him in the description of all my videos because people ask me about gut strings all the time. So the link to Damien, it's damienstrings.com. Also in the description, you can check him out. There are more retailers selling cheaper Baroque bows, like $200, just a cheap bow to start you out. Like I think Shar Music and Johnson String both offer an inexpensive starter Baroque bow. So you can explore that if you want to try. Just know you're not obviously working with like the most high quality professional bow at that price point, but it's a good starter. You can also choke up on your modern bow, but it's really not as good as having a bow with this shape. Okay, oh, I gotta silence my phone. All right, so we have not done any warming up. We've just been taking questions, but that's great. I love that you guys have questions. I think what I will do, I'm gonna try, as always, I try to start the music really going by about half an hour into the stream. So we got like 10 more minutes. I think what I will do is get tuned, do a scale or two. You guys can throw me any more questions that you have, and then we'll get into the actual musical portion, which is duets today. I'm really excited to talk about how I'm going to be doing these duets. I think it should be really cool and different. You know, so many people are doing live streams now, classical musicians, which is great, and we need it. But I've been doing live streams on this channel for 5 years now. I actually just passed, it was about this same time of year that I did my first live stream cello concert on this channel 5 years ago, and been doing them really ever since. And I had to up the ante, so I'm going to be playing duets with myself. I did do this on my Christmas live stream, if any of you guys caught that, but it was Christmas music. This is going to be actual classical and Baroque music that I'm going to be playing as duets. But I have recorded the other parts, and I'm going to be playing the solo parts along with them. I'll get into that more once I'm actually doing it. So I'm going to get tuned up. As always, if there's any weird audio stuff, you guys can let me know. I'll just do a scale and kind of start getting ready to play. And I will say we had a lot of rain here for like 2 weeks or longer. I don't know, I got lost somewhere in there. And then it finally started drying out a little bit, so my strings were pretty cranky this morning. Gut strings are very sensitive to humidity changes and temperature changes too. So when they dry out, we get a lot more squeaking and squawking. So even on some of my recorded parts that I'm playing along with, I had some squeaks in there, but we kept them. It's more of the natural way of the gut strings. So I'm just going to do a little C major scale with my favorite warm-up bowing, the long, short bowing. Again, I do this to get my fingers mobile because finger motion and flexible fingers is so important for articulations in Baroque music and with these lighter bows. Getting warmer already. Oh, I will put my bow maker in the chat. Oh, Alyssa, that's so cute that you played the piano accompaniment for yourself. But that's really smart. And also handy to be able to play the piano. All right, and one thing I did not say that I probably should have said, even though it's very obviously down here, I am, of course, accepting donations for this stream. They are not a requirement. Of course, this is free on YouTube for anybody to watch and enjoy. But I, like so many other musicians and freelancers, was, of course, hit by this crisis. I do not have as much paid work that I can go and do. So any donation, if you're enjoying the stream, you find it valuable, you want to see it continue, any donation that you're willing to do is super appreciated. You can do it at the GoFundMe. because I know some people just prefer to like donate to a donation place, but you can also Venmo me directly, and then there's no fees involved if you choose Venmo. GoFundMe will take some percentage out of my earnings, so if you care that I get every single cent, Venmo's a better idea, but GoFundMe's fine too. And not donating is okay too, whatever you want to do, but I appreciate so much any support. I know we got a couple donations from last week's stream, and people are donating even just when they're watching the archive, like not when the stream is live, which I super appreciate, and it tells me that people are still enjoying this even past when it's live, which is great to know. So thank you so much for considering donating. And yes, you can absolutely oil your strings to keep them sounding good. I oiled mine last night before I went to bed, and again this morning. My biggest problem right now is that my strings are pretty old. But yes, I use extra virgin olive oil just because that's usually what I have on hand. But yeah, if you're new to gut strings and you start using them, you want to always keep your instrument properly humidified. But if you're in just kind of a dry environment, or you find that your strings are getting kind of scratchy, you can put a little bit of olive oil or almond oil was Richard's suggestion on a soft cloth and just gently rub it into the strings. Of course, not down here where your bow goes, but on the rest of the strings. Okay, let's do another scale, and another bowing. I will do a down, up, up bowing. I sometimes think of it as like a minuet bowing, and I will do an F major scale this time. There's the squeak. Okay. And I will go into a G major with slurs of 2, and as you guys are probably noticing, all these bow strokes that I do are really good for practicing Baroque articulations, which is kind of what I'm trying to do and get in the zone for. So you're going to notice, particularly on the slurs of 2, that there's a decay at the end of every slur, which again goes along with this lighter tip that we have. And I will move into a 16th note stroke on a D major scale. Okay. Alright, I did start running this little, it's actually an essential oil diffuser, but I have just water in there and it works as like a very subtle humidifier, just to help my strings, which were pretty dry this morning. And I did even have to put my heat on a little this morning, so doing the best I can to keep my strings kind of moisturized. Alright, got time for one more scale, and I will be checking the chat, like I said, once we get into the music. I'll still be checking, but it's a good time to throw your questions in ahead of time to make sure it gets seen. Hi, Emily. I'm currently studying Baroque cello with Kathy Mines at Oberlin. How you practice both instruments? Well, first I want to say I love Kathy so much. I basically got my Baroque start by going to the Oberlin Baroque Performance Institute. That was, I can't remember if it was 2008. Yes, 2008. I went to Oberlin Baroque Performance Institute, and then I went back in 2009. And that was my whole start with learning. I mean, I did play in a little Baroque ensemble at my college, which was the Hart School of Music in Connecticut. But it was really Oberlin that got me on this track. And Kathy's so wonderful, and I'm just so happy she's still teaching and doing her thing. I have to say, I am not the best person to ask about practicing both instruments, both modern and Baroque, though I do it now. But when I got into Baroque cello, it was the summer in between my sophomore and junior year of college. I was so in love with it, and I was really struggling with modern cello at the time because I started really late and I didn't quite make up the time my first year at college. So I was in a bad place with modern cello, and I fell in love with Baroque cello. It came so naturally to me. There were like these awesome modern cellists at the workshop, and like they were struggling so much to get the Baroque technique, and it like just, I took it right away. So I kind of didn't want to play any modern cello like as soon as I went into Baroque. I even managed to finish my undergrad with an all Baroque recital, taking full-time Baroque lessons instead of modern. I had to get special permission and all this stuff. So I was like ready to throw modern cello in the trash, honestly, when I started playing Baroque cellos. So I'm definitely not the best person to advise, but I will say now I do play both. I teach a lot of modern students, and I've been teaching for 15 years. So I've been teaching modern cello nonstop, no matter what, even when my performance was primarily on my Baroque cello. I think for me in general with practice, it's very task oriented. So I think if you have repertoire on each, just making sure you have the delegated time to spend on each instrument, make sure that you're doing appropriate warm-ups on each. Like I would not think about being able to like, oh, I played my scales on one instrument, so now I can just move on to the other. I would try to actually do separate warm-ups on each instrument. And for tuning reasons, that's, I think, the hardest thing from jumping between modern and Baroque is switching out of equal temperament. So, I already recommend it. I think the best thing to do when you're getting used to temper tuning is playing along with like a harpsichord or an organ or something that is set to the temperament. But if you don't have that option, I think whether it's like what I mentioned earlier with intonation about the ClearTune app has temperaments, or some other tuner that has temperaments, just making sure you're kind of like have all your ducks in a row for both instruments. Rather than kind of relying on like the overlap. But again, that's like optimistic best case scenario thinking. Again, I did not do these things because I just wanted to abandon modern cello, but you can absolutely do both. Most people do both. I was told in my undergrad, you have to do both. You won't have a career if you don't do both. I proved them wrong, but I'm certainly like a minority, so I don't want to preach that like it was easy or simple, but yeah, I think just kind of delegating time for each, making sure that you're always logging that time. I mean, I always, for myself, when I was preparing for recitals or recordings or anything like that, I always had practice goals that I wanted to meet, even though it was just on this instrument. So I think kind of setting those goals for both is probably the best way. So hopefully that was helpful. I know that wasn't like the most enlightening, but... do one more real tune because I think we're going to get into the duets momentarily. All right. Okay, so Christian asks about me playing 2-octave scales and not 3-octave. Correct. When I'm just in like staying in safe zone, Baroque playing, I oftentimes just stay to 2-octave scales because I like to cycle through up to 3 sharps and up to 3 flats, and I like to vary my bow strokes. I focus generally with warm-ups a lot more on the right hand technique, and you'll see especially today I'm not going to even be doing much shifting at all with the music I'm playing. It's pretty simple. So yeah, I like to focus more on the bow stroke and just keep it to 2 octaves, and then I can cover more keys in the amount of time that I'm doing my warm-ups. Okay. So here's what we're going to do today for the duets. I've been like building up to this. And so again, if you saw the Christmas stream, you know how I do this. So I'm going to give away my technique, and I don't mind sharing what I do, especially for people to learn and do it. I will be totally transparent. I have a little bit of bitterness around colleagues, former colleagues, people that know me or that I've worked with that see my stuff and see my ideas and take my ideas and never support what I'm actually doing. So I'm a little hesitant to give this information away just because I could see other people doing it and, you know, never even saying, hey, cool live stream. But, you know, that's just the price you pay for being an innovator, I guess. I'm going to take off the little top banner there about the welcome, and then I'll talk us through this. All right, so all the selections that I'm playing today are from the Carl Fischer Progressive Duets books. I've played these before. I've even recorded some of them on the channel. And they're just really cute cello duets. I actually play them with my students, is why I have the books. But I've been charmed by a lot of them and enjoyed them. And they're very playable and fun. So I thought they would be really cool to do on stream, especially because I could just bang through a bunch of them since they're not like super technically demanding. So basically what I've done, they're of course intended for modern cello. They're just arrangements of various popular pieces for two cellos to play. But what I will be doing is I've selected some of my favorites. You can see I got some tabs here of Baroque and classical selections, and I'm of course playing them on my Baroque cello, so I'm going to be doing stylized period interpretations of these little duets. So it's kind of a hybrid because this is a modern edition intended for modern cello. These are modern arrangements, so I'm not by any means playing off of historical arrangement of these pieces, but I am interpreting just the material in a more historically informed way, and I think it kind of adds a layer of flavor and color to these simple little arrangements. So I really enjoy doing it. I will say I just recorded all the second cello parts this morning. I have not had time to go through and listen to them or check them or anything like that because it takes as long, you know, that the whole duration of the music, it takes as long to record all the parts. So there may be some weirdness here and there, but I think overall it's going to go well. So basically what I've done is I recorded all the second cello parts on voice memos on my phone. So very simple. And I'm going to just be playing back the second cello parts through my Bluetooth speaker right here and playing along with them. There is no click track. I don't have anything in my ear. So every single track is going to start with me counting off in the recording. So it's a little funny. We can pretend I'm like at band practice or something because we're going to hear me say 1, 2, 3, 4 at the beginning of all of them. But that's kind of just the simplest way that I could get it to start, you know, together. Again, I prefer to do these streams sort of more informal and easy because it allows me to be more flexible, to respond to the chat, to be more present with you guys. So of course, like little things are going to happen here and there, but I think it's still going to be a good time. So let's see if this is still on. Nope. And what I'm going to do is I will say the name of each duet before I play it and the composer. And so if you're really dying for the music, it's just in these Carl Fischer Progressive Duets books. So you can just grab these books. They're pretty inexpensive, and then you'll be able to find the duet by the name and the composer. Okay, and I did not do a volume check since the speaker's back on, so you guys can let me know too. I might just play the first one and you guys can tell me if the second cello part through the speaker is too loud or not loud enough. Okay. And hopefully my phone won't do anything weird and this will all go beautifully. So thanks again for tuning in. If you've just joined, we're now getting into the duet portion. I'll be playing duets with myself through this Bluetooth speaker. Again, you can send donations either on the GoFundMe page or direct to my Venmo with no fees or anything like that. So thank you so much for everyone who's already supported these live streams. I'm trying to do them every week now since so many of us are stuck at home. So now we are going to start with a rondo by Moret. So this is a Baroque composer, and like I said, everything will be Baroque or classical, played here on my Baroque instrument. I'm tuned at 415. We're going to see how this goes volume-wise on this one. I think we'll be all right. 1, 2, 3. I actually think that that could have been a little louder on the second part. So I am going to raise the volume for the next one. I just saw, I'm not going to catch everything, but I just saw a donation from Alyssa. Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you anybody who donates. It's so appreciated. So we'll just keep it rolling in the music for now, but I will be checking in with you guys. So on to the next one, a Bourrée by Handel, very popular from water music. I'm sure a lot of you will recognize this. And I'm going to turn the volume up a little this time. Let's see how this goes. One, two, three. Better, a little louder. I am so squeaky on my A string. It's driving me crazy, so I'm gonna oil again, and then you guys can see what it's like to oil gut strings. But like I said, the disclaimer is these strings are pretty old, so that's why I'm getting extra squeaks on them. But I will still oil them for you guys to see what that process is like. It's a good thing to know. So I am just using like a dish rag. Sometimes I use a paper towel, but with the paper shortage going on, I actually don't have any paper towels, so I've just been using this. I'm gonna go into my kitchen right there and put a little drop of olive oil on it, and then I'll show you how I do it. Okay, so I got my oil. I'm going to concentrate on the A string because that's really where I'm getting it the most. But it's good to oil them all. And then use a more dry part to just kind of get any extra oil off the fingerboard, but you really don't want to be excessive. Like I just put a drop on the towel basically. Oh, Vivaldi Double Cello Concerto would be a fun one to do. I do have the slow movement of that recorded on my YouTube channel, so you can watch the video of that, and maybe I'll do that on a different stream. All right, let's keep it rolling with these duets. All right, next up we have a little Telemann minuet. One, two, three. Alright, next up we have a minuet and trio by Mozart. Cute, fun, love to do a little classical stuff. I know most of the solo stuff I play is Baroque, but I like to do a little classical too sometimes. So here we are with the Mozart minuet and trio. This has a lot of sections. We'll see how it goes. One, two. Cute, gotta love Mozart. Really can do no wrong with Mozart. All right, chat is getting quiet or else it is not loading for me, but I think you guys are all just listening, which is great. So we will just keep the music going. What did I just do? Okay. All right. Oops, need this. Next up, Scherzando by Reichardt, who seems to be like another classical composer. 1 and 2 and... Okay, next up, Le Petit Bien by Couperin. And so this, I feel, was probably written as a gamba piece. Viola da gamba, one of the sort of considered a predecessor to the cello, but of course I'm playing it on my Baroque cello, and there you have it. So we'll go on to that next. I'll retune after this one. 1, 2, 3. Cora's here. You're still called Cora on YouTube. My friend Evelyn, yay, thank you for being here. So, hello everybody, if you're just tuning in or you tuned in somewhat recently, I am here playing duets on my Baroque cello with myself on this Bluetooth speaker. I recorded the second cello parts earlier today, and I'm playing the first cello parts out of this book of Carl Fischer Progressive Duets. So this is not historical editions of music I'm playing. These are modern arrangements for cello duet, but I am playing them in a historically informed fashion to give them a little extra flair. But they're very student-friendly pieces. I play them with my students. That's why I have these books. So it's fun to kind of play them in this more stylized way, in this sort of nifty technology way of playing with myself. All right. And I do see some other donations coming in. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate any and all donations. Of course, if you don't have the capacity to donate, please continue enjoying for free. But if you are able to donate, it's super appreciated, so thank you. Okay, we are moving on to the next duet. So this is a rondo by Pleyel, composer I have not heard of, but he is from also kind of early mid-classical. So getting a lot of classical stuff in on this stream. Oh, I said I was going to tune. Let's do that. Gonna leave it. My C peg has been so difficult. Okay, on to this rondo. 1, 2, 1, 2. And thank you guys for being patient with my squeaky A string. It's so bad today. It actually hasn't been this bad in a long time, but it's a part of the charm of playing on a historical instrument. All right. Next up, we have a Fantasia by Telemann. And no one said anything, so I assume the volume level of the two cello parts is good, and you guys can hear the second cello part enough? If not, let me know. One, two, three, four. I have to say, this is very selfish, but I love playing with myself. Like, because I'm naturally a continual player, so I usually play accompaniment and bass lines. Like, all my career as a Baroque cellist was all about playing continuo and bass lines. I know how I want my bass lines to be, exactly, every note, every articulation. So every time I would play with someone else accompanying me on cello, it was like hard to not be a total control freak because I knew exactly how I would play the part if I were playing it. So it was always just a little bit of a compromise to have to play with somebody else. So being able to play with my own bass lines, I gotta say, I really enjoy it. Okay. So the one that I just played was a Fantasia by Telemann. It's the last one in book 1 of the Carl Fischer Progressive Duets for cello. And I'm now moving into book 2 for the rest of the music. Yeah, Telemann is like one of my favorite composers. And like he's somewhat of a household name, but he didn't, like, none of his pieces are. It's like we kind of know who Telemann is, but we don't know, like, a lot of major pieces by him, like the way we know Handel's Messiah and stuff like that. But I really like Telemann. Okay. Alright, so the duets are going to get maybe a little more interesting. I mean, not this one we're starting with, but we are moving into the second book of these. So they're a little bit more elaborate, but like I said, all of these are very playable, straightforward pieces, which is part of what makes them fun, in my opinion. Some people get bored playing simple music. I think only boring people get bored. If you're bored, maybe you're boring, and maybe you should be playing a little bit more musically or finding something to engage your mind in the music. If you're bored because your notes aren't fast enough or high enough, then that speaks to your musicality more than anything. All right, so now we are in the first selection. These are 2 little short duets by Kohler in the second book. One, two, three, four. one, the second part is way more interesting than the first part, so maybe I should have swapped which one I recorded, but oh well. On to the next. So now we have 2 duets by Handel. One, two. I have to stop. I can't deal with my squeak. It's driving me crazy. I'm squeaking on almost every open A. I'm so sorry, you guys. Again, probably still gonna squeak on those open A's, but here we go. 2 duets by Handel. 1, 2. Until this happened. I recorded a repeat that wasn't there. Like, it looks like it's going to be an A section repeat, but it doesn't have a repeat sign, but I recorded it in the second part with a repeat. All right, guys, we're doing this Handel duet one more time with a repeat that isn't there, but that's what I recorded it as. All right, here we go. 1, 2. I recorded the other one separate. Quite a few snafus on this Handel, but we finally got it. And now I can see why that A section doesn't repeat, because the thematic material of the A section actually happens twice in the A section. So if you repeat it, then you get the same material 4 times. So now I get why that repeat isn't there. Anyway, on to the next movement. 1, 2, 3. hopefully no other technical difficulties like that. Okie doke. Well, good. We're in good timing. I have quite a few left. I might not do them all because I'm trying to only go an hour and a half on these streams. But if I don't get to them all, I'm definitely going to have them more for later. I'll be curious to see what everybody thinks about these duet streams and these duets, or just the concept of playing duets on stream like this. So definitely either let me know in the chat or leave a comment on the stream because that'll stay there forever. Like leave a comment on this video, and then I'll definitely be looking over the comments and seeing what people think. All right. So now we have a Beethoven minuet. This is actually the latest thing we're doing, and this one could also have technical snafus. Basically, because I record these second cello parts without a click track or anything, when there's rests and stuff in the part, it's a little tricky because I don't have the first part filling up that rest. Yes, of course I can count, but you know, classical music, we don't play metronomically, and I'm of course going to be phrasing everything. So there's always possible moments for things to totally become unraveled. I'm surprised there hasn't been more of them. But that's kind of why I'm sticking to simple music for now on these duet streams. But let's see how this Beethoven minuet goes. We'll see if we stay afloat. One, two, three, 1, 2. We survived that little Beethoven minuet. Okay. I am tuned to 415 right now, which for those who don't know is a half step below the normal A. So my A is like a modern G sharp because I am playing on my Baroque instrument with gut strings and Baroque bow. I know I'm of course playing some classical stuff. But during the classical period, they were, of course, still playing on gut strings. They might have been tuned to 415. They might have been tuned to 430. They might have been tuned to 440. We don't actually know what they were tuned, especially in the classical period. But it's not totally out of the question to be playing at 415 with gut strings on this repertoire. And I love the sound of it, honestly. So now we are going to do a little Bach Bourrée. I personally really love this one. I actually have this recorded on my YouTube channel, this exact arrangement. So if you guys like this, you can search up that video later. My C keeps going out, but I also don't want to move it. Thank you for your patience while I tune. That's how you know it's an early music stream, if there's a lot of tuning. And for those who are new to gut strings and just getting used to working on it, if you do have a peg that constantly slips out when you have to tune using the peg, because of course we do not have fine tuners on this instrument, usually the best thing to do, and what I probably need to do for my C string, is re-wrap it around the peg. If the string is wrapped too far from the peg box, it will often slip out. And if the string is wrapped too close to the peg box, then it becomes really difficult to turn the peg. So a lot of times if you're having issues with your pegs and tuning, you just need to undo the whole string and re-wrap it around the peg so that it's like a nice distance from the peg box. Okay, now let's get to this Bach Bourrée. Hope this is the right one. We'll find out.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so Elise, and for anybody who's tuning in late, I am playing out of the Carl Fischer Progressive Duets book. This happens to be book 2, I also have book 1. I played book 1 earlier. So these are just lots of random classical and even non-classical pieces arranged for 2 cellos. So they're definitely not historical, but I like to play them on my Baroque cello and kind of like put my own historical twist on them. Sometimes I change the bowing. I definitely do the articulation however I see fit. So it's kind of like my creative interpretation of these Carl Fischer duets, but I really do think the books are good, so I recommend them. So what I just played was a Bourrée by Bach. They just have it as Bourrée because it's, you know, it's a book like that, by Bach in the second book of Duets. Okay. This was, and it was originally a keyboard piece, I'm almost certain. All right, next up we have, did I record both movements of this? I can't remember, so we'll find out if I recorded both movements of this. This is 2 bagatelles by Diabelli. Never heard of him. Born in 1781. So again, he's like a classical guy. Never heard of him though. Oh, and this is actually going to be our last one, so the timing worked out quite well. Oh wait, no, I did record one other. Maybe 2 more. We'll see.
One and 2 and.
Cute. All right, and we have one more, this CPE Bach. So this ended up being a very classical stream just based on the selections that I've made out of this book. But kind of nice to do some stuff that's a little bit later in the repertoire for me. So we will have this CPE Bach as our last one, and this is also one that is logistically a little bit complicated. It's got 2 movements in it, so we will just see how this goes with my robot self coming out of the Bluetooth speaker. So last one, so definitely get any of your final questions in the chat now, so I'll see them when I'm done. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Definitely give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. That helps YouTube know to spread the video around and recommend it to people. Again, I am accepting donations if you feel so inclined and you like the streams and you want to see them continue. You can do that on either the GoFundMe or direct to my Venmo. There's no fees that way. So I super appreciate all the people who've already supported the live stream, including the first one that I did last week. And now I am going to try to do these weekly. So yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting me and doing that. So let's hear this CPE Bach before we wrap up. Oh, you're late, but you made it, so, and you'll get to watch the stream later. So I'm doing it same time every week, hopefully, so maybe next week you can catch on time. All right.
One, two, three, four, five, six. One and two and.
Kind of a nice note to end on. Happy and cute. That was CPE Bach, 2 duets from the second book of Progressive Duets by Carl Fischer. Okay. Yeah, so again, if you tuned in late, I was playing along with some pre-recorded versions of myself, playing the second cello part. I was playing the first cello part. The other cello is coming out of this Bluetooth speaker here. No click track or anything. I am just playing along with myself, recording on the second part. So that was fun. I hope you guys liked that. Like I said, I first did this on my Christmas live stream this year, playing Christmas music, and it was so much fun that I just decided, hey, why not play some like actual music? So baby steps. We went from Christmas music to like student duet level music. Maybe eventually I can do some like real sonatas, but it is a little bit tricky just timing wise, you know, like obviously I'm just having to use my ear 100% to stay with the second part. And then of course when I'm recording the second part, I don't have the first part to follow. So it's not a perfect system, but it's a pretty decent system considering. So, oh, thank you so much for the super chat donation. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, I'm going to try to be doing these once a week now, so definitely make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I'm going to try to be going live the same day and time every week, which for me is Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time, so 6 p.m. on the East Coast and some later time in Europe. So if you're available to tune in live every week, come join me and hang out every week. Otherwise, the streams will always be archived here on the channel. And I really am going to need, if I'm going to be doing this weekly, I'm going to need a lot of material, not just repertoire to play, but the types of things that you guys want to hear about and talk about, or, you know, have the live stream be themed about. Recently, or in the past year or so, I've done a lot of Q&A live streams. I always do Q&A on a live stream as much as I possibly can. So I've had live streams devoted just to Q&A. But I know people really enjoy the music, so I want to try to be doing some playing on every stream also. We could also do teaching topics too. If you're new to historical instruments or Baroque music, early music, and you want to learn more, definitely check out the instructional videos playlist on my channel. There's so much info to dive into there that'll talk to you all about historical string playing, how to get started, all the most common questions, because I guarantee if you have questions, other people had them too, and I've made a lot of videos based on those popular questions. So definitely dive into my instructional videos. If you just like the music, there's so many videos on my channel of me playing that you can listen to. So thank you guys so much for being here and tuning in. And thank you for everybody who donated or who's going to donate in the future. I super appreciate the support in this very uncertain, unstable time for musicians and creatives. You know, we're all kind of trying to find our way right now. I'm lucky that I've spent years building up this YouTube channel and that I've got such a great supportive audience here. that I can tap into at any time. I'm really grateful for that. So if you are a subscriber, or you've been a subscriber for a long time, thank you so much for your continued support. I do still have a Patreon page that supports this channel as well. I haven't been promoting it as much just because my uploads have not been as frequent as they were in past years. But the Patreon basically supports me each time I upload a video, which will now likely be weekly with these live streams. But when I was doing pre-recorded videos, like a lot of the videos on my channel, the Patreon was supporting those as well. And if you're interested in becoming more of a regular supporter to the channel, you can definitely check out my Patreon. It is linked in all the descriptions of my videos, though I can't remember if I linked it in this one, but I will add it after this. So if you want to make a one-time donation, the GoFundMe or straight to my Venmo is a great option for that. If you want to be more like on my team, an ongoing supporter, and donate something like $3 a video, $5 a video, $1 a video, you can do that on my Patreon. And then I have sort of like little messages I send out just to my patrons. There are little perks that go along. Usually you'll get like a free digital album of mine. So there's benefits to joining the Patreon community as well. But I know because it's a recurring donation, not everybody wants to sign up to be recurringly donating, recurringly. So if you want to just donate once, that's totally fine too. So thank you guys so much as always, and I will see you next week on the live stream, same time, same place. And of course, make sure you're following me on social media at Emily Plays Cello. I always announce my streams on Instagram and places like that, my Facebook page, so that everybody knows about it. So definitely follow me on social media to stay in the loop. All right, guys, I'm going to come up to the computer and turn it off, but thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. And definitely leave your comments for suggestions of stuff to do in future live streams.